Alright, I might jump ahead from time to time, but I figure you don't need to see absolutely everything. I took the spark plug out, and the outside doesn't look good, but the inside looks good. Doesn't look too bad. And what I wanted to do before I check for spark, I don't know how long this thing's been sitting, so basically what I'm doing is, or what I did, was I got a little oil inside our cylinder head here from the top, just a little bit. Tilt the engine. This has kind of a telescopic reach to it, so I can squirt a little on the top of the cylinder, top of the piston, kind of let that soak in. And then what I did, after it soaked for a little while, was I just gently get the pull cord and the spark plug out. Just, kind of work through it, and I rotate it. Recoil is a little sticky, but I'm kind of exercising everything. With this oil, I could spray PB Blaster in there. I could spray Aero Coil. I could spray Mystery Marvel oil. Use a little 3-in-1 just for now. And I'm just trying to prep it up so it's not a dry start. That seems to help things out. And that's it. Just wanted to point that out real quick. One of the things that I did was I took the spark plug out, and you saw the bit with the oil. I went back and tried to see if we had spark by pulling the pull cord and cleaning up the spark plug. I also tried a different spark plug and got no spark. So there's no need to report something not happening. I'm not disappointed because I kind of expect that to not have spark. But there's more things to do. Now I'm slowly rotating it, but when we do get this thing started, hopefully, and it does start to run, we're going to need oil in the crankcase, and we're going to need to make sure we have oil in the gearbox. So I took the box in, or the open end of a 3/8, and that cracked this plug loose. That's our oil fill for here. I don't really see anything in there. You're supposed to fill the oil to the level of the bottom of this hole. So I decided, and it's a hex fitting, so I decided, why don't we take a peek in there. And I already loosened it. I gave it a couple taps, a little hammer. We have a brass plug in the aluminum body here. Take this out. There's our plug. And I like to smell stuff. And I'm going to tip it a little bit. If it spills on the bench, I'm not worried about it, but something should leak out of there. Nope. Nothing. So this is pretty well empty. It's pretty well bone dry, or close enough to it. So this says oil fill here, and this is oil level. So we're going to have to get some lubricant in there, some kind of gear oil, and fill it up to that level before we go to start this, because when it's whirling at speed, we're going to take care of it. So yeah, these threads look pretty clean. These threads look pretty clean, but I took a brass brush to it. Always good to have a brass brush. I also did the same thing for the spark plug. And so we go through 2 spark plugs, no spark, and we're just checking this gearbox. It has no oil. So that's on the list of things to do before we get it started. And it's going to be the typical diagnosis to figure out why there's no spark, which was expected. So I don't know this engine, but I'm thinking that it has points and condenser in it, so no doubt that'll probably give us some luck. So we're going to take this apart and get into it a little bit deeper. And that's it for this minute here. Yeah, real quick, just something that I noticed is that the coil is supposed to have a space. Now there's a specific gap between the flywheel and the coil it's supposed to have, and they have factory gauges for that. Some people say, you can use a business card and put it in there, or a 3x5 card, something like that. Drop this down, tighten it up, and gap it, and it should run. What I noticed is this side's rubbing on the magnet as it goes around. That's the resistance. So I don't want to keep doing it, but it's getting bound up. It's actually physically rubbing, it's touching. And you can see visually a gap here and no gap there. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's the problem. And if we correct that, we can get spark, because that would be really nice. Don't really want to go digging the flywheel off right now, although there'll come a day that we have to, but it would be neat if it was just something as simple as that. So I just want to point that out real quick in this scene. Okay, tubes, real quick, I forgot about something. We're jumping ahead a little bit. I took this shroud off, and it was really quite simple. There's 3 7/16 bolts that you have to remove. I got my 7/16 socket. There's one on this side, one on the other side on the bottom, and just one on the top. Once those are removed, it simply comes off. A little gentle tap, 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 which I did with a little brass hammer. Tap, tap, tap. Carefully it slides off. Up, up, and away. And there's our 3 7/16 bolts. Thought you might like to know that. Alright everybody, we're in King Friday episode 2. And actually episode 1 and episode 2 were filmed originally over February 17th and February 18th in the evening of 2020. Now, it's only been 3 years ago, but it feels like 10 years ago. You know, it feels like a lot longer. What happened after February 18th was I was feeling dragged down and not very well. I thought I was coming down with pneumonia. And actually, a couple weeks later, the world changed. Fortunately, I made it through it. A lot of my co-workers with the same symptoms made it through. Some of my co-workers did not make it. So I take it very seriously. Nothing to joke around about that period of time. I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here to talk about is introduction to episode 3 with an engine that, let's say you have something, a project's been sitting around on the shelf for a couple of years that you started but you didn't finish. That's pretty much where we are with this. I did other things since then, but the priority for this changed, so I just put it on the shelf, and I want to get back to it, so we're going to get back to it now. Also, I want to clean that old footage off my camera roll before I lose it. Some of the things I lost along the way were like the mounting bolts for the carburetor to the engine. They're somewhere, I don't know where they are, but I'll find them. And if I don't, we'll come up with something else. I think where we left off was maybe finding spark and getting the engine to turn over and run, oil it up, get it to run a little bit, and then put it back on the shelf and then restored at a later time. The new mission for this is to completely tear it down and go through everything and rebuild it, repaint it, do everything. So episode 3, the next one, is going to be a complete teardown. Stay tuned for that.